I would define failure as not meeting your goals and then quitting and like just putting it down and saying, I'm never doing that again because it hurt too bad. That's maybe a failure, but not hitting a goal and then keep trying to me is not a failure. That's just learning. And I guess if you want to call that failure, right? I think it's definitely the best life lesson. But in the conventional definition of failure, I've definitely had those, or in other words, challenging situations where you learn a lot about yourself.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Funky Brain Podcast. My name is Dennis, and this is my Funky Brain. And today I have Mr. Skylar Marshall on the show from Greenspoon Marder Law Firm. Hi, Skylar.
Hey, everyone.
How's everything going today?
Going okay. I'm working from home, obviously. A little weird with the virus going on, but going well.
Yes. These are strange times that we're living in. We just did a video for work. There's about 15 of us that work at Magneti, and our assignment was to make short little video clips of little tips, and we're going to cut them all together. So everybody's being like, what are you doing to cope? Or how are you getting through this for yourself? And mine was like, stay silly, stay happy, keep laughing. Yeah. And we're all in this together. You know, it's not you're not being punished. It's not just you alone. We're all in it together.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it.
Anyway, I want to just say, hey, this is Skylar. And Skylar, tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you where you are? Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, thanks. So happy to be here. Thank you. I'm an attorney, as you mentioned, at Greenspoon Marder, which is about the firm. It's a nationwide firm, a full-service law firm based out of Florida. My work is all in Denver. And what I do there is I'm generally speaking a corporate transactional attorney. What that means is that I frequently serve as outside counsel to businesses, acting as a strategic partner from everything from inception to sale. And to unpack that a little bit, I help businesses in their inception by helping form and decide on their corporate structure and their equity structures. The next phase of the business past inception is typically where the money is and their financing, which oftentimes is bringing in some sort of private funding and helping to put that together, helping them to raise the money, bring in the new equity holders, and to, as part of that process, comply with the SEC when you're selling securities. As business, like I said, I'm outside business counsel to a lot of businesses who are already operating. And once businesses are already operating on a day-to-day basis, they need anything from, commercial contracts, all sorts of commercial contracts that may come up, or website agreements, service terms and conditions, those sorts of things. And I mentioned all the way through sale. I would say the final phase of the business oftentimes is to sell the business, not always. But I do a decent amount of mergers and acquisitions work, which is buying and selling businesses, both assets and the equity of businesses. So in a nutshell, that really is what I do day to day. Again, it's just being a strategic partner for businesses and business owners to hopefully be the first phone call when there's a big moment for the business, whether it's starting up or bringing in money or a big contract or they're selling the business or buying another business maybe as an acquisition. I'm hopefully the first phone call, and we can strategize through that and get it set up and everyone's happy at the end of the day. So that's me every day.
That's in a nutshell.
That's in a nutshell. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot in there, but yeah.
Yeah, that is a lot in there, but it's really good. It's valuable information, and the reason is because I think a lot of people try to do all this stuff by themselves. And one thing that you hear in business is they say, people are trying to always save a buck, and they're like, well, if you think it's expensive to hire a professional, wait till you hire an amateur. Or wait until you try to do these things on your own, and then mistakes unravel. And they could be, and I've talked to you about this before, they could be in some cases really big, expensive mistakes.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, especially I work with business owners who they're running a business, right? And this business has other owners, and there's equity in this business. And oftentimes, like I work with a lot of startups, and as a startup, they're on a shoestring budget, and they're they're doing it themselves. They're putting together their own cap table with their list of their equity holders. And it seems simple. They're like, oh, it's fine. Johnny owns 20%, this person owns whatever. And if you set things up the wrong way, you might accidentally create a huge tax burden on one of your co-founders, which is not good. And you may not discover that for like 4 years later, because you set them up in a way that they wouldn't want to be set up, right? But that's so common. I had a call recently with a startup, and they just asked me, they're like, well, we can go online, and no offense, but we can go online and form the business. And I was like, that's true. That's fine. And we can also just download all these documents and get them all in place. Like, why should we have you do it? And I was like, well,
if I'm being honest, I've done that before.
Absolutely. Everyone who started a business probably has, and it's fine. Sure. And I oftentimes I'll tell clients when they can do that. Like if you're starting up a business and you're the only owner, you probably don't need to pay me a ton of money or any to set up, because you're setting up a business and it's essentially like a sole proprietorship, and you're just giving yourself authority to do whatever you want. You don't need a whole bunch of legalese in there, but when you have other business partners, it might get a little more complicated, and you might accidentally screw some stuff up. Or the problem really is you don't know what you don't know, right? And like that's what I told that guy. Like, yeah, you can go online, you can find a CAN operating agreement for an LLC with multiple owners, and it's good. But maybe it's missing, a right of first refusal, or maybe it's missing drag along rights, or do you know what those are? Does the website agreement explain it to you? What you're getting, is you can pick up the phone and ask me and get a quick tutorial or an education on something that maybe you had no idea. And it could be hugely beneficial for you. I think I put a lot of my work is really preventative, or like prescription medication, right? Like a little bit of money up front, oftentimes reduces the headache down the road.
Sure.
But not everyone's really willing to do that, That's fine.
Well, yeah, those investors, like you said, people are starting on a shoestring budget. And
sure.
When they don't factor in legal fees or accounting or other things that they think they can do by themselves. And,
sure.
and in some cases, like you said, I think you can do a lot of that yourself up to a
yep.
point. I guess the real trick is recognizing what that point is when it's time to hire a professional to make sure you're doing things the right way. Because in the end, you're like, I don't want to spend the money, but you could find out that you're actually saving money.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, like, let's say you're starting the business and you've appointed yourself president of your business, and you've got a couple co-founders. You're in a good position. They've brought in some money. Things are great. The last thing you're really thinking about is the legal stuff, right? You want to get going. You want to start the business. But if you put it this way, as that president, as that, self-prescribed president and co-founder of all these other people, but you're the person in charge, you have an obligation to the company, and you have an obligation to those other people who put money in to do the best job possible, and to rely on professionals to help you do the best job possible and to protect their investment. Like I said before, the example of like setting up a co-founder or something wrong, I kid you not, I saw this recently. Like a good friend, they set them up in a way that wasn't really the best. And that person turns out is going to have a surprise tax bill that could have been reduced if they would have counseled them differently in reliance on corporate counsel, and it's not like the other owner can't afford it. Like they're selling a big part of their business, and now his co-owner from the beginning can't afford the tax bill. And a big part of it could have been avoided.
Sure.
And that is a terrible, that's where someone comes to me and it's like a little too late. It's like, well, there's not much we can do now. Like they can either pay the tax bill, or the company can make a loan to them and help them out.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And these are the things like that people don't think about when it comes to business. Like I love business. I like doing more of the activity on the day-to-day things that you do in the business. I love the marketing piece. Obviously, I do marketing, but just running the business. But then there are people that are meant to start businesses. There are people that are meant to run businesses, and there are people that are meant to build businesses and sell them. And then there's all different kinds of people. But when we say business, we don't think about the back end of like the stuff we're talking about now. So what got you interested in doing that? Like what got you into this field? Why weren't you a personal injury attorney or a divorce attorney or something like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was pretty clear to me from day one. Once I finally decided to go to law school, I knew I wanted to work with business owners. To put it more simply, I wanted to work with entrepreneurs, and why that is a complicated answer. I think a part of it is probably most of the people in my family are entrepreneurs of some sort, and maybe I was just raised appreciating entrepreneurship and that spirit and that drive to like build something and work with others collaboratively to build something. That's cool. You know, the drama involved and the other parts of law and the adversarial nature wasn't really for me. I like building things with people and like making things happen, you know, bringing in employees, making a product, whatever it is. Like if I do my job right at the end of the day, everyone's happy. Even if we're negotiating like a complicated mergers and acquisitions deal, the other side, the negotiations get heated. Still though, if we get to closing, they got something they wanted, my guys got something they wanted, and everyone's happy, right? And I like that. I like that part of it. Yeah. So I went into law school knowing I wanted to do that. I took a whole bunch of corporate commercial type classes, and I just wanted to get into that. It's kind of funny because in hindsight, I was a English major, a literature major, and now that I know I actually really like finance and business, I probably would have enjoyed at least a double major or switched majors to that. Not that I still love literature, but I don't know. It's funny what you learn about yourself over time, but that's why I got where I am.
That's interesting. Yeah. And so since we are in the time that we're in right now with this unprecedented global thing happening,
right?
Entrepreneurs, people you work with closely, a lot of them are in a really tough spot right now. And in danger of closing, in danger of losing their livelihoods, not being able to support their families, pay the bills, the mortgage, the rent, whatever.
Right.
So have you run across that yet? I mean, it's only been at the time of this recording right now, like 10 days, 2 weeks of like, all right, this is a problem. It's been about 2 weeks, I think.
But so, I mean, that's a significant amount for some people. And it's a stressful event. All business owners, to some extent, they're going to be impacted, if nothing else, by their employees who maybe are staying home with their kids or something. Like, even if that's the minimum impact, that's still significant.
Sure.
But what if you're in manufacturing and distributing, or you're in retail of some sort, or a restaurant? Like, you're in a really rough spot. And now it's the beginning of April and people's rent is due, and it is stressful. We have seen it already. I was talking to someone who operates multiple retail chains, brick and mortar stores, and they're having to shut down. Last week although this is what I love about entrepreneurs is, I mean, the beautiful thing about our society and our system is that the businesses, some of the businesses are going to fail. They're not going to be able to, maybe they don't have enough cash in the bank, and like, it is what it is. Like, just like anything else, like, you know, if you have a house and you have no money in the bank and you lose your job, it's a tough time. And that happens to some businesses. But the cool thing about entrepreneurs who know what they're doing and know their business and learn how to cope is they can adapt to these hard situations. You know, like I was talking to this brick and mortar retail shop, and his shops were going to get closed or significantly reduced. And so he cut cost and did like a once in a lifetime sale kind of thing. And he had the biggest month he's ever had as of last week, you know, and he was just stocking up. So you gotta pivot, you gotta adapt, and you gotta survive. And some people are better at that than others, but regardless to your point.
Yeah, nobody better to do that than entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's your job. And if you fail, you know, it's unfortunate, and it's unfortunate maybe for your employees and whatnot. Maybe that's a life lesson for them. I think anyone can weather the storm. They just have to have the right strategies, you know, and they have to, sometimes you can do everything. I mean, if you were running, let's say you were running a restaurant right now. I've been seeing, you've been seeing it, everyone's been seeing it. The restaurants are adapting. They're even restaurants who never did deliveries. They're embracing deliveries and curbside pickup, and like, that's pivoting, right? Some restaurants probably aren't doing that, and I don't know what they're doing. They're just not making money, right? You know. Well, so some are doing it better than others.
I think they're forced to be shut or to not have in-house dining at this point.
That's right.
Yeah. And it's kind of crazy. And I think out of this is going to come new ways of doing things forever. I mean,
I think so.
At least for decades to come. I think that this is going to be a huge. I saw this one email, and I forget who it was from, but the next generation. They're seeing this now, and we're really only in the beginning of this. And,
right.
Are they going to be growing up as a generation of like germaphobes? They're like, if you think back to the Depression era babies or people, they grew up and forever. My grandfather had millions of dollars, and he still kept in his basement. He had a shelf stocked with canned foods and pasta, and he would drive 5 miles to find a gas station that was 3 cents cheaper. And so, but there's going to be lasting effects of what we're going through right now. And I think that this is my opinion, and I've been talking about this privately with friends and family, but I think that what happened, and this is kind of getting off of the business topic, but more of a a life topic.
Yeah, it's related.
But I think we got too fast, too entitled, and I think this is like the universe slowing us all down. And
for sure, I think that's true. Yeah. But like you said, I think it's opening everyone's eyes to how there's other ways to deal with it. I mean, this is the first time we've had, don't quote me at that, but I think this is really the first, in our generation in the US, like really the post-technological era where we've had something like this, where people really are taking it very seriously. But the cool thing is you and I are having this talk virtually, and we have the tech tools that they didn't have in 1918, let's say. And like, we're learning new ways to adapt because we have these tools.
That's right.
And I wonder what the workplace looks like after this. Like, employers start to realize, well, hey, we could reduce our physical space and have a lot more work from home because we just did it and it worked out fine.
Exactly.
And that lowers overhead, and it'll be interesting to see how much of that happens.
It's true. And I think that people complain a lot, and we have been for a while, about a lot of different things, whatever's happening in your world or politics or something. But there's really no better time to be alive. I mean, what we're doing right now, I think that we really need that human touch. And at some point we'll get back to that. But in the meantime, look, I mean, you and I have been in meetings together. We've met dozens and dozens of times. And right now, I feel
it's like the same thing.
We're sitting in a coffee shop.
Yeah, right.
And how awesome is that? Like,
it's super cool. And my work, pretty much everyone's affected more than I am. I feel fortunate that I can keep working from home. I've had video conferences. It's been pretty seamless. That's not true for everyone. But to your topic, we are living in the best time, because not just the fact that we can continue to do this, but like the fact that you're doing a podcast, like it's like the age of radio. I mean, it's like a new enlightenment, in my opinion. Like every time I'm driving to work, I'm listening to podcasts on like who knows what topics. It's super cool. There's people like you out enlightening people and talking about interesting topics. How did you get that 20 years ago? I mean, you can still read books now, and you read books then, but it's a little bit of a different thing to have people, like I mentioned the enlightenment, right? It's like the second enlightenment, because it's people talking. It's not just someone reading a book in their bedroom, right? It's two smart people talking, sharing ideas, and then thousands of people listening to that. And that's just happening all the time. It's a cool thing.
It really is a cool thing. And I love the eye contact and the smiles. I think that's what's going to get through this is there has to be a levity about it all. You have to say, okay, this is happening. This is serious. Yeah. And in a lot of cases, it is serious. And, but you have to find good inside of it, the silver lining.
Sure.
Right? And you have to, because if you stay in the fear, if you stay in the anxiety, or the what ifs or whatever, then your mind goes there. And if you stay in that too long, you're not going to be able to do anything. We just have to find a way through it. The cool thing, I think, for me, out of all this, the greatest thing right now, not one person's being singled out. And like when you walk around the neighborhood, there's people that don't normally walk around here.
Right.
They're walking. And it's kind of strange. There's a little distant, like people like, hey, how you doing? But they're like walking 6 feet away, and to make sure have that social distancing, and that's fine. I think that's a responsible thing to do. So it's a little strange, but I mean, people are getting out. There's not, I can almost picture like driving down the highway and people being angry and giving you the finger, and like they're just so angry right now. It's just like there's feeling of helplessness that we are all experiencing together.
Yeah.
And everybody's kind of accepting it. And I think because you have to.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to really bring people together like we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've already seen it. It sort of reminds me of like 9/11, which was quite a while back. But in these times of these like really traumatic times, I think people are never more humane than when we're faced with some situation, and it reminds me of 9/11 where like everyone just seems a little nicer. There's those corner cases of people who get a little more mean, but I mean, just in professional life, people are signing off emails, hey, I hope you and your family are healthy and safe.
Yes.
Like, normally they would just be like, hey, where's my stuff? I need it tomorrow. Bye.
That's so true. Yeah, it is. It is. There is that levity there. Like you have to breathe, take time. Yeah. Like this morning I was walking, I went on a long walk this morning, and I was thinking about these things that were getting me really uptight. Like this person didn't respond to me or get back to me in the time that I was hoping that they would.
Yeah.
And just a few weeks ago, it would have really, really spun me out. I was breathing and I was walking and I was listening to this like calming music that I've been listening to. And I just had this wave come over me that it's okay. Like, it's okay. He doesn't have to get back to me in 30 seconds. He is going to get back to me, and he has since got back to me. And this was like, a few hours ago, and I'm fine. We're all fine. Everything's going to be okay. And this is just a period in time. The tough times never last. Neither do the good times. Right? Everything changes. The only constant in life is change. And this is ancient wisdom from Buddha 2,500 years ago. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through it together, and it's going to change the way that we've been doing things for a really long time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe it'll teach, hopefully, a little more patience. I mean, both in the workplace and outside of. It's kind of hard to say that to somebody who's more heavily impacted.
I agree with you. Yeah,
I'm sure there's people who are very, very stressed out right now that have just been put out of a job, and I think it'll get better for those people. I think they'll hopefully get through it like anything else, right? Mm-hmm. But it is interesting in general to see how we as a society kind of cope and then learn from this going forward. I mean, just working from home. I've never worked from home this long. I've been working from home for a week, and like I mentioned, it's been pretty seamless. I take conference calls with clients like I would normally do. And it turns out there's been very little interruption. I mean, other than, like you mentioned, business owners are in a tough time. Maybe things are slowing down a little bit. But what I've found, which is kind of funny, as a impact of people being home and cooped up, a lot of like business owner clients are catching up on their legal stuff. So like I'm actually real busy because people are at home and they're not doing the next thing. They're not doing the next business thing. And they may not be operating at all. So instead they're like, oh, I have that project we've been working on the last couple of months. And all of a sudden they want it tomorrow because it's like, well, what else are they going to be working on? Right.
Well, and they're not only are they not working on like their other busy stuff, but they're not sitting in traffic.
Yeah.
Right. They're not like taking the kids to school. I mean, they're not doing the normal rat race. And so it's calming everybody down, and it's going to force people to restructure their lives. And
hopefully, I hope it impacts how people. I think I've seen people talk about work-life balance, and I saw someone say that work-life balance is sort of a misnomer, that separation from, between work and life, and that sort of implies that work isn't part of your life, or even just saying that there's a balance, right? I think the goal is to just like acknowledge that work's part of your life and fit it in there somewhere. Like in the pie chart, you have work and you have life and you have family time, you have me time, whatever. Hopefully this experience helps people to better balance things. I mean, I don't miss, I drive like an hour to work. I'm saving like 2 hours a day right now.
Yeah.
And I've found my stress levels decreased quite a bit. I get the same amount or more work done, and I'm at home more, and I'm doing house chores, I'm cooking dinner.
And we're still connected.
It's super cool, and we're still talking just like we would normally, yeah. So maybe it opens people's eyes to other ways of operating.
I think it's inevitable. I absolutely do. And I think just going back to what you said earlier about like, look what we're getting done. And I think that it's going to force a lot of businesses to revisit their, $10,000 to $50,000 a month rent payment for their office.
Yeah.
That they have all these people working at that. They're like, oh, well, we just did all this virtually.
Yeah.
For a Zoom subscription, which is, I saw a funny meme. They were showing, look who's really behind the coronavirus. And it was a picture like, it was like the Scooby-Doo team taking the mask off of the scary dude, and it was a picture of Zoom. Because it's true. It's like we're realizing, look what we could do remotely. I've had at least 2 meetings a day where I'm looking people in the eye.
Yeah.
I would say probably 50% of those I may not have had
right.
been going through this right now.
Right.
So it's pretty amazing what's happening. So I love the like your story of what got you into law and how you knew that. Like for me, I didn't know what I was doing like my whole life. I was like, all right, I'm a skier. Now I'm going to be a chef now. And then all right, skier, chef. And then I got into the sales stuff. And then I didn't like for years. I kind of flipped back and forth on what I wanted to do. And it's so cool that you were able to identify that early on. Most people pivot a lot.
Sure. Yeah. It's funny because I beat myself up over that, but I guess maybe I'm more fortunate than others. Well, because I go to college right out of high school, mostly right after high school. And then I took a break. I took like a 3-year break during undergrad because I had no idea what I was doing. Like I was an English major, and then I was lucky enough to be self-aware and realize I don't think I could be a teacher. Right. So what am I doing? Like, why even get this degree? It was either teacher or journalist, and journalism's not in a good place. There's just less jobs,
Well, I think it requires a certain personality level that you don't,
totally.
I don't think you have that.
Probably not. No, I agree with you. Yeah. So like I said, I was lucky enough to be self-aware to realize these things. And I took a break, and I sometimes kick myself of like, man, I wish I would have taken that 3-year break. I'd be 3 years further along in my career, but that's insignificant. Some people, it takes a lot, they have a longer journey. So I'm lucky in that sense.
Yeah.
But I didn't know as a kid that I wanted to be an attorney. There's no way.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Yeah.
I figured that out during college.
You can't beat yourself up for having those gaps. Like for me, it was like a 15-year gap where I was kind of messed up. And people listening to my podcast that listen frequently will know, like my history of my past. I was a bit of a crazy guy when I was young, and
I know
my addictions and stuff like that. And
right.
From like 15 to 31, I wasted 15 years. So did I waste 15 years, or did it build me into who I am today?
Absolutely.
So, it's perspective. I think it's the way you look at things that shape you, because you can spend a lot of time beating yourself up about those 3 years or that 15 years, but you can't do anything about it. It's in the past.
No, I totally agree. I think everyone has those periods where they're maybe down on themselves. I don't.
They're almost vital. I think you have to have those.
Yeah. And if you don't, you're maybe a sociopath. I don't know.
I think at some point you're going to. Like if you've not had those periods of time in your life, you're going to. Like you're going to hit that. Well, and some people, I think it's the midlife crisis thing or whatever it is. You're going to hit that period. Like, what is all this for? What is life? What's the meaning of life? Like all that stuff. And you kind of just have to grow out of that stuff. And those things make you stronger eventually.
I agree. I totally agree. I would, and like if someone were to ask me, what were you doing during those 3 years? I wouldn't be like, oh, you know, I was delaying my career or I was failing, right? Like, not like my wife and I bought a house and I was getting work experience and I was doing other life things, you know, that were beneficial in the long run.
So throughout those times, do you have any failures that you experienced that you think made you stronger, that at the time felt like the end of the world, kind of like for some people now, I think, but actually made you stronger and helped get you to where you are today?
I'll challenge you a little bit on that because I would define failure as, you know, not meeting your goals and then quitting. Right. And like just putting it down and saying, I'm never doing that again because it hurt too bad. That's maybe a failure, but not hitting a goal and then keep trying, to me, is not a failure. That's just learning. And I guess if you want to call that failure, right, I think it's definitely the best life lesson. And I've had plenty of that. I would say, but I don't think I've quit on things. So in that, if I challenge you, your definition of failure or your use of failure, then maybe I haven't failed. But in the conventional definition of failure, I've definitely had those, or in other words, challenging situations where you learn a lot about yourself, right?
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and I have this in my book, an interesting take on failure is that the real truth is that nobody fails at anything.
Yeah.
Ever. All you do is produce results.
Sure.
Right? So if you're a real estate agent and you're trying to sell this house, and then you go through the process, you meet these people, they want to buy a house, they put an offer in, and then it fails, it backs out. So are you a real estate failure?
Right.
Right? So no. I mean,
instead you just learn some lessons from that and you can move it into the next thing.
Right. So another way I've heard it, it's like if I throw you this baseball and you drop the baseball, are you a baseball failure? Right. So all you're doing is producing results, and that happens every time. You know, even like what you said, if you quit, then you've failed. But then do you? Or maybe you're not meant to do that. Maybe it's just time to move on to the next thing.
Sure.
So it's up to you.
I think it depends on the person. If you are resentful and it's something you really wanted to do and then you quit on yourself, you can maybe successful. You can maybe correctly call that a failure. Like you failed yourself, right? But that's up to you. You know, like if it's something you really, really want to do, you can do it. Even if you fail 5, 10, 15 times, you can do it eventually. I believe that.
Yeah. Well,
I think all the successful people have done that tons of times, right?
Yes. Yeah. The difference between successful people and not successful people is the successful people didn't give up.
Yeah. And I really do believe that. I think I've talked about that with clients. I think because oftentimes business people are under incredible stress, and every single day they're learning something new. Like let's say you mentioned you were a chef for a while. Let's say you're a chef. Obviously, you know how to cook food really well, and that's what you do. But let's say you start this business, and all of a sudden you have to worry about accounting and balance sheets and payroll maybe, and all this stuff that you don't know. And it's stressful. Every day is stressful, but you're learning. And I've told clients this before, if you're not putting yourself in those positions that are uncomfortable, where you're on the verge of failure, then there's no way you could succeed, right?
True. Yeah. And I also think, and this was interesting, I learned this from another attorney actually, and he said, it was really interesting. He said, some people, like, he was very entrepreneurial. Mm-hmm. And there are people, and I kind of touched on this earlier, but there are some people that are meant, you know, it's everybody's dream, the American dream, start a business. And I'm just going to build this business and then call it good.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference. It's actually two separate things between running your business or starting your business mm-hmm. and running your business. Or there's a difference between being able to do your craft mm-hmm. and running a business. Those are two separate things. Like you could be a great lawyer, but not know how to run a business.
That happens all the time.
Yeah, you could be a great dentist, but not know how to run a business.
Yeah, I mean, attorneys, it's a weird thing in a lot of professional industries. This isn't unique to law, but to your point, happens all the time because you work your way up. Let's say you're a good attorney and you have clients and you've proven yourself. Well, naturally you start to become a manager of other attorneys and other people. And maybe you're running a law firm, right? But oftentimes those attorneys, as savvy as they may be in other fields, may be terrible at managing people.
That's right.
Or managing accounting or whatever it is,
Yeah, and that happens all the time. Even like a chef. Yeah. Like you might be a great chef, but there's a difference between cooking and running a restaurant and paying the bills and doing the accounting and the payroll and all those different things. Two entirely different skills. Right. Doing your skill, whatever it is, making baskets or, building houses, construction. You might know how to put a house together, but do you know how to run a business?
And when I see the two types of like successful entrepreneurs I see that deal with that, they either learn a whole bunch, they do a whole lot of self-learning, and they just take it all on themselves and learn it. And that's possible. But it's a lot. Like if you're a chef and you've got to learn QuickBooks, you've got to learn payroll, you've got to learn insurance, legal stuff. I mean, all kinds of things, right? And you can learn all that. Alternatively, there's entrepreneurs who quickly admit that they don't know. They admit their weaknesses. I don't know any of this stuff. I know how to cook food, but I don't know anything else. So I'm going to hire a CPA. I'm going to hire an attorney. I'm going to hire brokers. I'm going to hire whatever. I'm going to hire recruiters, marketing firms, and I'm going to have them do it because I can't do it. And either way is fine. But it's challenging.
Yeah, and I also think that and this goes back to, I never completed that thought there, but what I learned from this guy was that there are some people that are meant to do that, to start a business, to be good at your craft and build a business. And then there are some people that are meant to be great employees.
Yeah.
And we need those people. And that's probably the majority of the people, I would say. The majority of the workforce is actually, they're not meant to build and run businesses. They can't handle the stressors. They don't know how to manage the finances or whatever the business part is. But there are people that like that structure. They like the paycheck. They like the insurance paid for. They like that. And they can make investments and they get their vacation time. And that's fine. I'm not like that. I don't like working for people. It's not my forte. But so I'm always trying, and I've paid the price for doing that.
Yeah.
I've had some successes. I've had massive success, and I've also had failure.
Right. But you're right. It's not for everyone's personality.
That's true.
And it's certainly not the majority, definitely a minority of people who both want that and can handle it, physically and emotionally and whatever else. I mean, I talked about most of my family are entrepreneurs earlier. Ironically, I have yet to be an entrepreneur in any real sense, other than, as a professional, I'm sort of running my own business, but I work for other people and they've done all of that administrative work that I don't have to think about.
Yeah.
And maybe one day I'll choose to be an entrepreneur. I don't know. But right now I'm pretty comfortable just being, the best attorney I can at the firm I'm at.
Yeah.
So
you're still young enough where you're learning a lot of skills and you're going to carry that into the next 60 years, so, sure. And that's really cool. Awesome, man. What else is on your mind? Did you have other things going on in your world? How is your health? Are you good now? Are you taking walks? Are you trying to stay busy here?
I'm less stressed out. I get outside, go for a walk or play Frisbee with the dog, and it's been gorgeous the last couple of days. And
I know we're going to have a picnic in the park tonight.
Are you?
Yeah. A little family picnic.
And it's super cool. We talked about silver linings. I'm just, the silver lining is that we can finish this call and I might step outside and soak up some vitamin D for a few minutes, that I probably wouldn't be doing if I was downtown. So
it's true. And it's interesting. What you said too, also is that maybe like you don't mind, you're more introverted. Some people don't mind being isolated. So my mom so she's been there for 3 weeks on a safari, and when she left, this was just starting to bubble, the coronavirus. It was just starting to bubble. So there was there was definitely no way of talking her into not going. So she went, and I think she's come home a day or two early because they're forcing everybody to travel out. But we've been connecting with her on WhatsApp, my sister and I, and we said, well, when you get home, you're going to have to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. You're going to have to isolate for 2 weeks. And she goes, no problem. I'll do it for 4 weeks. Like, she loves that. And there are a lot of people that are like, this is great. Like, I don't like people. Like, people, it's hard to be around all these people sometimes. So she's not going to have a problem with that at all. But then there are people that are like ready to crawl out of their skin that need to go get out and like do things all day long.
Is that you? Are you feeling a little anxious?
Well, no, I think I'm kind of in the middle. I can do both. I can socialize. I could be extroverted, but I can also chill. And I think maybe that comes from some of my life experiences, and like I think I'm on the same page with that. I heard someone say some people are really freaking out that are stuck in their house, and I forget who it was. They were talking about how you should really irrespective of any viruses, you should aim to have a house that's your sanctuary. And you should enjoy being at home. It should be like your safe place, right? So like this should just be like a stay-at-home vacation. I mean, a lot of people are still working or whatever, but you shouldn't be stressed because you're at home. You should hopefully just be like, oh, I'm at home. It is nice. I mean, I think that there are a lot of people that are in less ideal situations.
For sure.
And or in smaller places, smaller like units or whatever they're in. And so we're fortunate enough to have some space, but
if I was cooped up in our townhome we moved from a couple of years ago, I think I'd maybe have a different attitude.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's good. At least you have the awareness. I mean, you were right. You should be able to be comfortable in your home. And, if you're not, then maybe out of this will come that awareness. So if this ever happens again, I'll be okay there.
Yeah. Hopefully. I saw commentary about millennials and how it's sort of contrary to millennial culture that I'm a millennial barely, but that they go out for everything. So this maybe is a shock for those folks, and maybe they'll learn valuable lessons. Yeah. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah, they're going. We all are. We're all going to learn some lessons, and that's okay. It's like, I want to be in that spot where I can learn. Always be learning. Always have that open mind. I talk about in my book, how do I become successful? How do I have successful relationships? How do I get and stay healthy? HOW it's an acronym for honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. So I need to have that open mind to see, and willing to do things differently. I need to have an open mind to see that, all right, well, things aren't going as well as they could, or whatever. This is the situation, and I need to be willing to do things differently. If I want to get here, but I'm stuck here, I need to be willing to do things differently so I can get there.
Sure.
And I think it's an important.
That's the key to success.
It is willingness, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. Yeah, because things change constantly. So I need to be able to adapt to those things that are to the changing world. This is what better example than this huge change that we're all living in. So I need to embrace it and find ways to get through it.
I think part of that is, I think that's a good acronym. Part of that is perseverance, or like grit, right? To get there, and we've come full circle to not deem it a failure, to adapt and to however you need to the changing circumstances, and to get to where you wanted to be originally, rather than just accepting it as a failure. And I would just sum that up as grit, right? And I think I would attribute most, if not all, of the successes I've had to just perseverance, more so than intelligence or eloquence or anything else. There's way smarter people out there. There's better spoken people. There's wealthier people. There's all that, but I just keep going and just adapting and trying to get there. Yeah.
Just keep going. Yeah. Another chapter that I had in the back of the book was obstacles. Yeah. So there's different ways of looking at obstacles. One is it really an obstacle? Or is it just a bump in the road? You know, a lot of people think, oh, I'm having a problem. Well, we're so used to things going our way, or at least having conveniences or quick fixes to get there. So if something's not going right, we like, oh, now there's a problem. But is it a problem? Is it really an obstacle or a problem, or is it just like a bump in the road that you have to just like?
Or is it just a learning opportunity?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
I love listening to people like you. I listen to videos from Dwayne Johnson frequently because he just makes me feel like a non-motivated piece of crap, right? Like, but he's just he's what he says, like all the stuff you're saying, he talks about all the time, you know?
Yeah. The other way to look at it is like it was put there for a purpose, to teach me something. Like it's time to go back to school. Like, all right, this is what you're going to go through this now, and you'll learn why later. Sure. Why you're going through that.
Yeah. Best we can do is hopefully just meet those challenges with a smile. I wish I could say I always did that, but
no, none of us, most of us don't. I mean, that's where your grit comes in. I love that. Sure. I'm going to use that all day today. The grit. Yeah. Probably moving forward, it takes grit and determination. That's the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people.
I won't. Sorry,
we are all going to be met with challenges. We all have an idea. There's this one analogy where it's like, it shows a kid's idea in high school of how life's going to go. All right, I'm getting out of high school and I'm going to go here, right? And it's this straight line. Yeah. But what really happens is like, all right, I'm going to get out and it's going to go like this. Right. Line is going to keep going like this, and then you're going to get hit and kicked in the stomach and bumped, and then eventually you might end up like here. Or you could end up here or beyond, but you have to just keep going and stay.
I think you're totally right. Yeah. I won't take credit for it. I actually, when I first started using the word grit in that context, I heard a psychologist did a study on school-age kids, and she was trying to determine the source of success. This is something I feel like you'd be interested in. Maybe I can find it for you. But her conclusion, if I remember correctly, was just, it wasn't just school-age children. Sorry, it was professionals of all sorts, whether it was like car salesmen or traditional professionals or all sorts of things. And she wasn't trying to determine who made more money and how they got there. It was just like, and the conclusion she came to, like she did IQ tests, she did all kinds of testing, and the conclusion was those who had more grit. Like she's like, the smartest people was not intelligence. IQ was not an indicator of success. You know, not at all. It was just like those who did that roller coaster ride you just described, and they ended up somewhere close to where they wanted to without quitting along the way, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Skylar, this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to come and talk with me. I learned a lot.
Me too.
I'm going to use grit all day long today.
Good.
To get through the day and through this whole thing. I think we all need to have a little grit to get through this. I think there's a level of acceptance. We need to find peace, and it's going to take a little grit and determination to like push through to the other side of this. But we're going to get there. And I love the togetherness thing. We're not alone.
Right.
Together, we're going to get through this.
Yep. Never has it been more clear. Our humanity. We're all coming together.
That's right. So awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Skylar. And we'll do it again, I hope, sometime. And until then, have a great day, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.